I'm not even sure at the time in World War II we knew what psychological health was. So far as combat is concerned, if somebody's trying to kill you, I think the stress is going to be the same in any kind of a war. World War I is called a shell shock. Then we came up to World War II and it became the psychoneuroses, and then we came into Korea and it was battle fatigue, and then we came to Vietnam, and finally in Vietnam is where the PTSD really started, and of course none of us know what. We didn't have any idea what that was.
To date, it's all too clear that TBI, post-traumatic stress, and numerous other related mental ailments are widespread, entrenched, and insidious. This department has, over time, realized that military medicine must have the same expertise, focus, and standards of excellence to address psychological wounds as we do for physical injuries.
Things are so nice when you come back initially, then the regular life sets in. You start having trouble sleeping and thinking about your past experiences.
I was distant from everybody in my family. The room could be filled with people that I loved and cared about, and I'd be over here thinking about what happened to me or some of my fellow Marines in Iraq 3 months ago.
I lost a lot of sleep, and so I started compensating for that by drinking so that I could sleep.
I was so strung out. Black bags under my eyes and just really cranky and tired and irritable outbursts.
I would get angry at things, I would get frustrated.
I was angry at everything and everyone.
My anger from work would carry over. Never physical, I just wanted them to go away because I didn't want them to be part of what was going on with me.
I had the night sweats and the terrors and the post-traumatic issues that are related to the experience. I actually thought about taking my life because I just felt like I was not strong enough and I was not a real warrior. But in reality, it was just a trying time for me emotionally.
It is critically important for people to address the invisible wounds of war and the effects of stress and stress injuries. We need people to be physically and psychologically fit. And not only to complete the mission and to accomplish their military tasks, but to be good family members, to be good parents, to be good spouses, to be good citizens.
It's awfully difficult to criticize yourself and to say, I need help. But you have to have the strength to go ahead and do it. Get the help, because you can become a detriment to your unit. You can become a problem. You can become a problem at home. These things don't happen just on the battlefield.
I'm Sergeant Josh Hopper, United States Marine Corps. I've been in for right at 5.5 years. I've had 1 deployment to Africa and 2 deployments to Iraq.
It was while I was in VMFA 115 as the executive officer that I knew Sergeant Hopper. He did 2 tours in Iraq as an infantry marine, as a saw gunner. On his first deployment, he fired thousands and thousands of rounds from his weapon, saw lots of casualties, and experienced battle on a daily basis throughout his deployment. On his second one, he employed his weapon only 1 or 2 times, but saw more and more IEDs. In fact, he received a Purple Heart for injuries he sustained as a result of an IED.
Sergeant Hopper, when he joined the squadron, came to me as one of my S2 intel clerks. He was a lat move from the infantry.
Not only was he this big physical specimen of a Marine who could push around more weights than just about anybody else in the squadron, but he also was a kind man, very professional, did his job and did it well.
I couldn't find enjoyment in anything. I couldn't even enjoy being around my own kids. I was distant from everybody in my family. Pretty much all I did was I'd come home from work, pour a drink of some sorts and just sit there until I fell asleep and wake up and go to work the next morning, and pretty much a repeat cycle.
I'm Major General David Blackledge. I've been in the Army for just short of 34 years. That first tour in Iraq, ended up spending 14 months, initially as brigade commander, and then assumed command of all the civil affairs forces in Iraq, Kuwait, and Jordan. I was severely injured in an ambush right towards the end of my first tour and spent the next 11 months in recovery, rehabilitation before I was returned to active duty. Went through my second deployment, got wounded again during a suicide bombing, but it really was about a year after that I was still experiencing nightmares. I was still having trouble sleeping. I would still get angry, unnecessarily frustrated, and I just started thinking, well, is this just the way it is going to be for the rest of my life?
My name is Lieutenant Colonel Mary Carlisle. I've been in the Air Force for 20 years, and my specialty is critical care nursing.
Major Ivana Blackledge. I've been in the Air Force 17 years, primarily as a critical care nurse. In OIF, I deployed to Iraq in 2003. Then in 2007, deployed as ICU nurse to Balad Air Force Base.
I was the night shift leader in the intensive care unit at Balad. Before I deployed, I thought, I'm an experienced critical care nurse. There's nothing I can't handle. But that quickly changed, and the casualties came in every single night. IED blasts, burns.
Every day, horrendous things that we saw and had to take care of. How do you support them? A young soldier, airman, Marine, sailor, who's lost a leg, who's lost an arm, who's lost 2 arms. How do you let a patient die?
There were many women, children, service members that died, and I took care of them as they died, and you just get this overwhelming sense of helplessness and hopelessness, and I brought that home with me.
My name is Major Jeff Hall. I've been in the Army for 17 years.
Major Hall was my battery commander for Operation Iraqi Freedom 1 and 3. If he said that we were going to storm the gates of hell today, I would say, all right, sir, let's go.
The first deployment, when we entered Baghdad, the people were really glad to see us. It seemed like the year just flew by. Captured a lot of people that needed to be captured. It just seemed like we could do our job. It was the second tour that I started to really feel it grinding down on me. I couldn't find anything that we were doing that was advancing the ball down the field. We essentially was kind of just driving around until we got blown up. We had an IED incident where 2 of the guys that was in my tank unit that was attached to me was killed, and one of the lieutenants was wounded severely. And I don't know why, but that shook me. I mean, it really shook me to the bone. I had seen dead GIs before. I'd held a couple of guys as the chopper came in to pick them up, and I just always was able to troop on, but for some reason, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And my anger started to really come out.
I could tell when he walked in the door of the hangar. He wasn't the same man. He would say things, and his eyes would get black. He would have a deep, dark look in his eyes, and that was not Jeff at all. We just kept hoping that things would get better, but it wasn't.
My name is Stacy Pearsall. I'm a staff sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, retired. As a combat photographer, I could go from one mission with Special Forces and then the next day be on a civil affairs mission where we're opening a school. So my mission ran the gamut from heavy combat, the most extreme combat, to taking pictures of dead bodies in the morgue. I saw people blown apart. I saw people without heads and mutilated bodies, and the most horrific things you could ever imagine. And I had to take pictures of it. I can't erase those pictures. My first deployment in Baghdad, I was struck by an improvised explosive device while riding in a Humvee with no doors on. I injured my neck when I impacted my head into the driver's seat in front of me. At the time, I didn't know it, but I was later diagnosed with traumatic brain injury. I went through physical therapy, but the stress from the improvised explosive device and some other scenarios that I had witnessed kept me from sleeping at night, and I didn't recognize what was happening.
I'm Major Ed Polito, United States Army, retired. It was August 17, 2004. We had just finished a mission with training the Iraqi Army in a place called Taji, and now we were headed to Kirkuk. As I was driving, I was talking to my colonel about us coming home. And for that minute and instant, I hit that IED. I ended up at Brooke Army Medical